Welcome to Plata Plomo. We hope you are enjoying our channel. If you haven't checked out our web series, please click on the link in the description below. Make sure to hit subscribe and remember to hit the notification bell to be notified when new videos arrive. And now for our top 10 worst drug dealers. At number 10, we have Freeway Ricky Ross, not Rick Ross, the rapper from Miami, but Freeway Ricky Ross from LA. He's a former gangster and drug trafficker that grew his empire during the 80s, where it is believed that he bought and sold tons of cocaine.
You start to be around a certain thing and then you kind of get immune to it, where it's not really, it doesn't bother you anymore.
During the height of Freeway Ricky Ross's empire, he could sell up to $3 million in one day. He operated in over 7 states throughout the U.S. territory, and he claims that over the course of his illegal activity, Ross amassed a personal financial net worth of about $1 billion. For several years, he evaded law enforcement through the use of police scanners and voice scramblers. Top law enforcement officers from the city of Los Angeles claimed that his equipment was top technology and that it was even better than what they had. In 1996, Ross was sentenced to life in prison after purchasing large amounts of cocaine in a federal sting operation. The sentence was later reduced to 20 years, and Freeway Ricky Ross was released from prison in 2009. He decided to turn his life around and became an author. They even made a film titled Kill the Messenger in 2014 based on his life. He speaks to troubled youth at charitable events, and he even has his own Twitter account. At least this guy was given one more chance to straighten his life. Number 9, Criselda Blanco, also known as the Black Widow or the Cocaine Godmother, was the only woman on the list until the Queen of the South came around in the late 90s, but she didn't make the top 10. Criselda was part of the Medellin cartel in the 70s. Her wealth was calculated at about $2 billion, with operations in Miami, New York, and California. She was a ruthless, cold-blooded drug lord that didn't hesitate to eliminate the competition. She ordered over 200 murders in her career. Criselda was highly involved in the Miami drug wars during the 80s. She controlled a dangerous organization of lawless gangsters and hitmen known as the Cocaine Cowboys. She was arrested in 1985 and continued operating her drug ring from inside the prison until she was released in 2004. After many failed assassination attempts over her lifetime, in 2012 she was shot twice in the head in front of a Colombian butcher shop. This is one lady that did far too much harm to society, and karma came back for her. At number 8, Carlos Leder, the co-founder of the Medellin cartel. It is known that he was betrayed by Pablo Escobar, and he was extradited to the United States, where he was given a life sentence without parole. In the mid-80s, this young drug dealer owned his own private island in the Bahamas called Norman's Cay. It had its own private airstrip protected by radar, bodyguards, and attack dogs. He used this island to traffic cocaine. His life sentence was later reduced to 55 years after testifying against corrupt ex-president of Panama, Noriega. During the trial, Leder's assets were revealed to be worth over $2.7 billion. Leder also confessed that he was a self-proclaimed Nazi and an admirer of Hitler. This drug dealer of German descent has now been released and lives off of welfare from the German government, where he now resides. Boy, did this guy throw away his life. At number 7, Los Orega. These two brothers co-founded the Cali cartel and were the biggest rival to the Medellin cartel. Miguel and Gilberto Rodriguez Orejuela gained such big amounts of money in such little time that it was believed that they had at one point control over 90% of the world's cocaine market, bringing in a whopping $3 billion for the dynamic duo. After the downfall and death of Pablo Escobar, the government put their attention to taking down the Cali cartel and captured the two brothers. They were arrested at their homes, one hiding in a secret closet and the other in a deep down bathroom hole with an oxygen mask. Both brothers were extradited and are serving 30 years in prison. This was a plea bargain with the government to grant immunity for their family members for the crimes they had committed. The two brothers are still behind bars, paying for their crimes. At number 6, Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha, also known as El Mexicano for his infatuation with Mexican culture. He was another leader of the Medellin cartel. Gacha was known for pioneering drug smuggling routes through Mexico to the United States. He built and owned several labs where he would pay cheap labor to hundreds of workers to produce and package tons of cocaine. In 1988, Gacha was listed on the Forbes list of billionaires, accumulating a fortune of $5 billion. During the drug war, he escaped to a ranch in the jungles of Tolu, where 300 military men cornered him and his bodyguards. After watching his son being killed by the authorities, and before getting caught, he detonated a grenade, killing himself and others around him. Talk about going out with a boom. Number 5. Khun Sa. In the underworld, known as the Opium King, he was a Chinese warlord and militant. He was a smuggler from the Golden Triangle in Asia. The Golden Triangle spreads as far as Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand. Khun Sa controlled over 18,000 troops over this whole territory. His heroin empire was the largest in the world at the time. It generated the kingpin a fortune of a little over $5 billion. In 1988, during an interview, he said he offered the Australian government his entire business for $400 million. Obviously, the offer was declined. They were not going to pay him money to refrain from his criminal activity. He offered the same deal to the United States, and the U.S. answered back in an indictment of drug charges and put a $2 million reward for his arrest. He retired himself from criminal activity hidden away in one of his farmland estates, and is believed that he died from natural causes in 2007. One less criminal to worry about. Number 4. Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar is known as the leader of the Indian organized crime syndicate called D Company from Mumbai, India. After the Bombay bombings in 1993, he became India's most wanted for allegedly planning and financing this attack. He is still on Interpol's most wanted list. He's known to sell and distribute large quantities of narcotics to the United Kingdom and Western Europe. According to the United States, Ibrahim maintained close links with several terrorist organizations. D Company, his organized crime ring, controlled 90% of India's drug dealing, but is also known for counterfeit operations, extortion, and arms deals. Ibrahim is considered India's public enemy number 1, but ranks number 4 in the worst drug dealers with a net worth of about $6.7 billion. It's rumored that he launders his money contributing his fortune to the film industry in Bollywood. He is currently hiding, but some say he's living a low-profile life in Pakistan. In a blink of an eye, we may see this criminal in the news again. Number 3. Amado Carrillo Fuentes. He was the most powerful Mexican drug trafficker in Juarez after assassinating his own boss, Rafael Aguilar. This organization is famous for decapitating, mutilating, and dumping its enemies in public places to create fear on the local law enforcement, civilians, and rival cartels. He used his private airliners to transport drugs out of Mexico into the U.S. For this, his nickname was El Señor de los Cielos, or the Lord of the Skies. His fortune topped the amount of $25 billion. The U.S. and Mexican authorities had a lot of pressure to capture Carrillo during the 90s, so he would seek safe haven in communist countries like Cuba. With the DEA and Mexican authorities on his tail, Carrillo decided to perform a plastic surgery to change his appearance and escape his persecutors. After 9 hours in the operating room, he died in 1997 of complications due to a failing respirator at the age of 40. The physicians involved in the procedure were later found dead, paying the ultimate price. No need to change your face now. At number 2, Joaquin Guzman, El Chapo. This guy has been in the game since the late 70s, running around with several crime organizations and holds the crown for the kingpin of the Sinaloa cartel. This little guy is the one to be the major influx source of drugs into the US. He's a mastermind at escaping from high security prisons, loves the attention, and was even negotiating with Sean Penn to make a movie about his life. Joaquin Guzman Loera was a vicious narco who showed no remorse for his enemies and had pride for his title known as the Last Godfather. El Chapo's organization had become international and did damage worldwide. Now he's locked up in a high-tech prison with ultra-high security in Colorado. Well, it looks like he's not going to be able to dig his way out of this one. And to conclude, the worst of the worst comes in at number 1, Pablo Escobar, the man that imposed the most fear over any other man, the leader of the Cartel de Medellin. He made the most amount of money out of all the worst drug dealers on the list, with an estimated worth of about $50 billion, 20 of the billion believed to be buried in different locations throughout the country. He holds the title of the King of Cocaine. At one point, he controlled more than 80% of the worldwide distribution. He was known to be a criminal as a young man and worked his way up by killing and bribing law enforcement with his famous contract words known as Plata o Plomo, forcing law enforcement to take the money or face bullets. Escobar was linked to the death of over 2,000 officers, 1,000 civilians, and at least 500 city officials. In the height of his operation, Pablo and his organization would rake up a whopping $60 million per day. It was believed that he would smuggle and sell 70 to 80 tons per month. He tried to cultivate a Robin Hood image by building churches, schools, hospitals, and even gave money and housing to the poor. In the 1990s, the government put a reward for his capture, dead or alive, and in 1993, he was discovered to be hiding in a regular home in Medellin, where he was chased by authorities. Police claim to have shot him, but the rumors are that he put a gun to his head and took his own life. Pablo was the richest and most dangerous. He did a lot of harm to society, and now he's paying his debts to the one above all. This concludes our video of the worst drug dealers of all time. Remember, crime doesn't pay. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you again soon.